Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 seconds, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists, Ben Ark from BTC IoT.
Hello.
Christian Rutzel from Raspberry Blitz Project and Doge Rain.
Yeah, a long time ago. Hi there.
And I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Moving on to issue 1. The price of Bitcoin is down 1.45% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 9,169. $1 billion in Bitcoin options are expiring on Friday. That's today. What does that mean? Both options and futures, which are called derivatives, are reaching an all-time high on the CME. The largest batch of Bitcoin options are set to expire June 26th. Hey, that's today. Will this large amount of Bitcoin options expiring affect the price of Bitcoin, or will the price of Bitcoin be affected by the decline in the American stock market, the resurgence of the coronavirus, the continuation of the protests in the street, and the fact that the stock market has already jumped up all the way to 25,000? What's going on in the price of Bitcoin now? Ben Ark.
This story is kind of one of those stories that does. I've been checking the Bitcoin news for the past week, and there's not really that much for the past couple of weeks, and there hasn't really been that much going on. It's kind of a story which people have clung on to. There's some idea that it may shift the price, but these aren't physically settled options. It's cash settled, so there's only so much impact it can actually have on the Bitcoin price. All it really will do is kind of free up cash for investors to spend elsewhere. Maybe in the future, when we have physically delivered futures, then that will impact the price significantly. But I mean, the correlation we've had with the stock market is just the people who are moving the price are the people who are trading, and the people who are trading are also trading the stock market. But it doesn't mean that it's just that thin sliver of capital sitting on top of the huge bedrock of hodlers. I think there was a report we did a couple of shows ago. It was 5% of all Bitcoin is currently floating around being traded, and the rest of it's just being sat on and is locked up in long-term storage. So it's not something to worry about. I don't think it's going to move the price significantly. It's until we have physically settled futures, and then maybe in that scenario, then it would possibly move the price. But this is for all people's complaints of Bitcoin not being stable over the past month, it's been pretty stable. We've just been bopping around at what is it, like £7,400? I don't know what that is in dollars. So yeah, it's fairly stable at the moment. But yeah, I wouldn't pay much attention to its correlation to the stock market, and I wouldn't expect for a large shift in price from this news.
Every time someone says the price of Bitcoin is stable, something horrible happens. Christian Rutzel.
Yeah, hi. Trading is really not my field, but I try to understand what this option and futures thing, so at least people try to explain it to me. As far as I understood, and Ben already mentioned it, it's like there's no real Bitcoin traded, so nobody has to deliver real Bitcoin there. So there will be, I can see no mechanism where there is really a pressure on the Bitcoin market itself. So it's maybe just psychological all. So maybe if you can explain more, that would be interesting, but that's what I can see. So it's more like a bet, like on the weather, or which dog will win the race. So I don't know. We have to see if there's maybe if somebody knows some economic player in the Bitcoin sphere that then has to change some economic things in the Bitcoin world because of this. Maybe this has side effects, but from the basic mechanism, I cannot see direct influence on the price stuff.
I would say, I mean, it is interesting that $1 billion is a lot of money for people to be thinking about Bitcoin, and investing in something which is related to Bitcoin, even though it's probably not going to move the price at all. But it just shows the amount of money which is going into kind of Bitcoin related financial products. And physically delivered are very popular. Physically delivered futures options are very popular. and I imagine similar large sums of money will go into those.
But do you know a business that really uses and utilizes this idea of a future market? Because I was always explained like a farmer uses a future market to save, to insure against a bad year or something. So the question is this Bitcoin future market somewhere used in the Bitcoin ecosphere, like a farmer, miner, whatever? Find some analogy. I'm not sure where, but is there somebody really using this for really value, for securing a business, or is this all just gambling there?
I do think most of it's gambling, but I do have one concrete case where someone is using it to back up Bitcoin and the Lightning Network. While I was at the Lightning conference in Berlin, Jack from Zap Wallet talked about how he was hedging the Bitcoin futures market. So if the price of paying fees went up, he would have covered. He'd be covered on that. But if the price of fees go down, because part of his model is that his company is paying for those fees, so it matters a lot to them if the price goes up or down. So that could be at least one concrete case where it's being used for something other than gambling. But I do think the rest of it is gambling. So,
yeah, okay, thanks. Interesting to know.
As well as all the margins and the percentages, and the margins are just gambling with other people's money. But I do think we've been tied up with the stock market of late, and I don't think it's going to change. Not only are we tied to the stock market, we're also tied to the coronavirus. When people freak out and they sell all of their stocks to cash, they also sell all of their Bitcoin to cash. When people think they're not going to live for but a few more months, or they think that they need to take serious actions to stay home or quit their job or whatever it is to stay away from that virus, it's going to affect the way they buy and sell their investments, which is going to affect the price of Bitcoin. So I don't think it looks very good in the short term. We're tied to other forces, and they might be taking us down, which moves well to the exit question. Will the price of Bitcoin be higher this time next week? Ben Ark.
Yeah, I mean, I just because it is kind of like caught up in the stock market nonsense. I will say as well that as time goes on, more and more Bitcoin gets locked up by people who kind of have more of an understanding of what Bitcoin is, and they're in for a long-term investment. So that little slither of traders sitting on top of Bitcoin trying to make a quick buck on this volatile asset gets smaller and smaller and smaller. There's a fly buzzing about. So yeah, I mean, the stock market's going to go down because we've got horrible coronavirus news around the corner of second waves and all that kind of stuff. So I'm sure it will probably drag Bitcoin down a little bit as well.
Christian Rutzel.
Yeah, about the price in 1 week, I really have no really idea. So I just can say if it stays over 9,000, that would be epic. And I see a good base for this, because we really see now it's kind of strong. A lot of people out there have interest in alternative money investments, so to hedge against the big money amounts that get pumped into the system. I think a lot of people are waking up to this, so I can see a natural growth for a demand for Bitcoin there. Maybe it's not the kind of demand that pushes it up to 1 million, whatever, but it's definitely there. And now with the halvening on the other side, I think this gets more and more into an equilibrium, so balanced kind of way. So I think it's good to see it stable. Maybe what Ben was saying, like when Stong's going down, so there's maybe a short dip there that could be expected.
Well, the technical traders have said we needed to stay above 9,200 according to avoid a fall to perhaps 7,000. As of right now, we're at 9,160, so we're under the 9,200. As well as for me personally, I think that the stocks are going down. I think the coronavirus is going up, and I think that's going to cause the stocks to go down more as well. As much as we'd like Bitcoin to be a safe haven asset during these times, I think that people are scared. And when they're scared, they're going to go for cash. But nobody really cares what I think. Everyone's tuned in to find out what the predictor of predictors, the Magic 8 Ball, says about the price of Bitcoin. We're going to ask it very clearly, only one time. Will the price of Bitcoin be higher this time next week? Here we go. And again, on the Wikipedia, it says not to shake the Magic 8 Ball. This could cause bubbles, but this is how the magic works. Here we go. 8 Ball says. So can't read it because it's too dark. Yes, definitely. So in the face of everyone else's predictions, the Magic 8 Ball has pushed it all aside. The price is going up. The 8 Ball hath spoken. Moving on.
And it's worth noting as well that, you know, if you look at all the videos where we use the Magic 8 Ball, so far its predictions have been 100% accurate.
100% accurate. Perfect performance from the Magic 8 Ball. Moving on to issue 2. Issue 2. Legendary investor Jim Roberts warns governments will have to eliminate Bitcoin. The investor Jim Roberts says virtual currencies are beyond the influence of government and they will not be allowed to survive. He says the price of Bitcoin is heading to zero, disagreeing with the Magic 8 Ball. He says if cryptocurrency succeeds as a real money rather than the subject of gambling as it is today, the government will make cryptocurrency illegal and eliminate it. Christian Rutzel, is it possible? Could the government make Bitcoin illegal? And could it eliminate it?
Oh, sure, they can make it illegal. So they make the rules. So there's at least they find some way if they want to. But I'm not exactly sure if this what the article says is true for every government out there. I can definitely see some governments out there that will go down that path at one point. But I can also see other kind of governments that maybe want to go into a different direction. So just for example, and I read the article shortly, and he says something like in there, oh, the government wants to know everything about your private transactions. I'm not exactly sure about this because this is just this picture of the government that wants it all. I think power is corruptible and government can always go that way, but maybe that's not for every government to say, because for example, if you look into the Corona tracing app implementation, you can see in Germany where I live that they really choose a very, very data friendly way. So it's really something so they build it in a way that the government even cannot spy on you if they wanted to. They really have to change a lot of other stuff that would then be discussed again. So even on the money side, there were some discussions I was hearing about the banks talking about how they can maybe redesign local currencies, virtual currencies. And there is this idea, especially in Germany, that people want a kind of privacy while transacting. So, and there's ways out there to make this technologies out there, Xiaomi and Cash, whatever, like you can find technologies out there to make something happen like that. So I think if there is a change, for example, in Germany to a virtual currency given out by some government institution, I think they will have to do it in a privately way. So, otherwise they will not get the acceptance by the people. So, So here comes again, can the government really eliminate Bitcoin? No, because technically it will be there somewhere. Could they make it illegal? Yes, and then it could have a big drop in price, because then it really, people see it not that valuable maybe anymore, because there's some market cut off from Bitcoin to that. So when the market is reduced, I think the market value can drop. But on the other side, I think in the long term, then there is a lot of value then in Bitcoin, because Bitcoin was built for that scenario where your government tries to have a super control, tight grip on your local money. So yeah, so it's a lot of. I think the article sees it in a two black-white color. I think there will be I can see governments allowing kind of Bitcoin, but still having their own virtual currency on the side, because I think there will be local money, there will be political money. It has value to a community, so and everybody can create money now virtually, and the technology is there. So I can see it both working out on simultaneously. The question is just if the government will also say this Bitcoin thing, we are not allowed ever to trade with it. I think, for example, the German government will make it complicated. Yeah, it's always like this, fill out this form here, do it there, like a pain in the ass thing. But really eliminate it, I'm not seeing this yet. So at least for Germany, whoever knows what happens. But in the US, I heard in the US, they one time in history, they forbid gold, right? So yeah, maybe not sure. Other governments can go other ways. So not have to see.
It's an interesting idea of a combined money future where Bitcoin exists along digital fiat currencies. Ben Ark, your thoughts on governments and Bitcoin?
And that's what John Nash talked about, wasn't it? The idea of ideal cash may not, in fact, be Bitcoin, but could be a fiat currency, which is strong-armed into behaving itself because there's an opt-out like Bitcoin, which exists. I mean, this guy in the article, he half gets it. Like, Bitcoin's there to erode the power of government. So yes, if it's successful, all governments will really be able to do is to stop it from eroding their power, is to ban it, but they won't be able to because it would have been successful and they won't have the power to ban it. And that's kind of the point. So yeah, I mean, you can have that Trump, shut it down to try and benefit your socioeconomic policies around the world, but because it is a threat. But you're only kneecapping yourself as a country and your economic growth, because other countries will just benefit from the fact that you've banned this thing, and these other countries are benefiting from that technology, and you'll be outcompeted on the world stage. So I don't think any politicians or any governments are seriously thinking about trying to ban it for any, logically, for any good logical reason. Maybe just just to want to kind of have control, but they understand this thing's here and it's not going anywhere. And the only way in which you can really benefit from it as a government is to try and embrace it and then help it, foster growth in your economy. So yeah, it's for those who don't ban it, they'll be the ones who do well for themselves. And as Christian said, like, that's why it's made. It's censorship resistant. The point is that, even if they do ban it, we'll still be able to use it, and they won't be able to seize it, and you'll be able to cross borders with it, brain wallet or whatever. So it's not like gold. If the government knock on your door and say, right now, give me your Bitcoin, and they come into your house and they search your safe, it's very easy to hide Bitcoin, whereas it's a lot harder to hide gold. So they can seize gold.
And there's maybe even one thing we have to see, like what we maybe see in the future is now governments failing with their money. So and when we look normally into countries where this happened, where the own currency is kind of failing and going into an inflation kind of scenario, you have some other currency creeping in, like people having the euro or the US dollar. So I think. So if you're that country that sees that is the local money is failing, and so maybe you welcome Bitcoin instead of the other currencies, because first of all, you don't get foreign influence into your country, like, because now people are using the US dollar or using the euro. So this may be interesting for you to offer it to your people. Oh yeah, we have this political money here. I know it's not the best money for saving, but it's the money we want to use to do our local economy stuff. And then you say, if you want to change something, you please use this Bitcoin thing. That's better for you for the savings things, because it automatically connects you to the big world, like economically, like, because Bitcoin can be used everywhere else in the world. So it's a good. I think it can be even attractive for a failing government to look at Bitcoin. I think in the beginning they will fight it, but at one point, if they see they have to accept some other money, so a devil to live with, I think they will choose the lesser evil, and that will be Bitcoin from their perspective.
Yeah, I mean, like, unless you're the US and you've got the US dollar as the world reserve currency, it makes a lot of sense, if you're a country, to just, default to something like Bitcoin if you do have some sort of hyperinflation crisis. Absolutely. And like you say, apolitical money, that's the dream, for you, to take away control over your country by whoever's got the world reserve currency.
It's an interesting idea to think about, like Ben saying, a country that is not the world's reserve currency, and how Bitcoin might benefit them. Like Christian was saying, it wouldn't allow outside influence, so no more foreign currency manipulation, with the exception of normal Bitcoin manipulation that happens every day. But it also wouldn't allow internal influence, so you lose control of your currency, which I just finished up the first season of Servant of the People, the great show out of Ukraine about a history teacher who becomes president, when in real life, the actor that played the history teacher is now president of Ukraine. So it's a really interesting show, and it talks a lot about the problems of corruption and bribery, and a culture where everyone takes bribes, everyone demands bribes up and down the level. You can't get anything done. And that's why it was so interesting. Ben say that the ideal money might be this digital fiat, because as we've seen recently with the coronavirus, we have to print a lot of money in the time of crisis, according to Keynesianism, right? Which, like it or not, is the current economic system. If you want to change it, you can change it. That's another conversation. But Bitcoin, we can't print this money, no matter how bad the disaster, no matter how bad the pandemic. So if you did have this digital fiat currency that the government did control alongside Bitcoin, certainly they'd inflate it and we'd notice the inflation. You wouldn't want to hold that currency, but you could still use it. And certainly, as the saying goes, you pay unto Caesar with Caesar's. You could pay taxes in your digital German coin. So something like that would be interesting. And as far
I put out a tweet actually this week, and I was surprised how popular it was, when talking to Bitcoiners. But I was just imagining how a tax system could work in the future. And with Bitcoin, we can have privacy, but we can also remove privacy for government. So we can trace where all the money's going. We can have, if it's all running on Lightning Network, for example, we could have all their read keys, and so every public sector wallet, so we could account for where every single sat is going. And then we could also, with something like Lightning Network, when we pay for our coffee, our 10% of tax, we could say where we want that tax to go. We could say, well, okay, and we could have it happen instantly at the point of sale. So I could say, well, I want 5% to go to education and 3% to public services, and then 2% to defense. That's a terrible choice, but people could just volunteer the taxes they pay and where those taxes were going. It's kind of like a democracy through the money you're staking into the tax system. And for the brick and mortar business selling me the cup of coffee, they don't have to then file any taxes, because the tax is rooted on the point of sale at payment. So could be a great thing for democracy, and even if it isn't a Bitcoin, if it is a digital fiat running on a system like Lightning Network.
I saw that tweet, Ben, and I do think it's a good idea. If I could have a preference on my app when I pay for my coffee, it automatically starts sorting my tax money where I want it to go. And then later on, the funding is done by people. That'd be an interesting idea, and I'd like to see that. Going back to the question, will they try to ban it? Yes, government will try to ban it. Will they be successful? No. They can ban it from official transactions. Certainly, you couldn't pay your taxes in Bitcoin, especially in a situation where Bitcoin would interfere with the local currency. They're only going to accept local currency. You probably couldn't pay for your driver's license or any other government services in Bitcoin, but everything else, Bitcoin will always be there. The black or gray market, which gets larger and larger the more things that we restrict and the tighter the rules get, will always be there. And there's always going to be Bitcoin. Moving on to the exit question. Which country will ban Bitcoin first? And ignore the normal ones like North Korea, Iran, places that have already banned Bitcoin. Give me a good one. Give me a big one. Give me a reason why. How about a Western democracy, somebody that's all about freedom but hates Bitcoin, something like that? I think we're going to go to Christian first. I stalled all I can. Who's going to ban Bitcoin first?
I think if Trump gets a second term, the USA will be it.
USA!
Yay! Because it's anarchist money, damn it. And those fucking anarchists out there, they're the bad people, yeah? And then this is the money from the anarchists we have to get rid of. So I think this if he really gets a second term, Trump, this could maybe land up somewhere on his list. So we have to, because he needs really this political money. He can pump it out all of and see the stocks go up. So President Pump will definitely be part of that.
And I think you took my answer. I'm going to have to think of another one. Ben Ark, who's going to ban it maybe after the USA?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is the point, like actual lateral thinking, bright leaders, world leaders wouldn't dare to ban Bitcoin because it'd be a terrible idea, but lunatics would, and Trump is one of those. So yeah, come Satsma if he wants.
Boris.
He wants if he wants to this Chinese rhetoric he has. Trump and the US. I mean, yeah, Boris is also a lunatic, so I can't lash you too much.
No.
Whereas the Germans, they're Angela Merkel, she's like an ex-quantum physicist. That's what you want. Not a reality TV star and some fucking moped.
Yeah. No. The U.S. is likely to ban Bitcoin first. Let's give that up. But it might be some other rule crazy country, something like Switzerland, seeing as an interference with their banking.
Switzerland, yeah, but you can pay for your taxes in Bitcoin in some parts of Switzerland, as you were,
They're going the other way. Then they're not going to defend the local industry, or maybe they think the industry will and should adapt. But yeah,
and then also, I mean, it's worth noting as well that Switzerland's Switzerland's democracy is based on the US model. But they just, what do? They just slightly changed it. So I don't know enough about it, but look into it. It's based on the US model. It's like a better version. This is how the US could work. It's like Switzerland, and Switzerland works very well.
How about Sweden then? Sweden did the herd immunity. They could also do herd immunity for Bitcoin, maybe see which banks is the fittest, something like that. Still a chance, but we'll see. No, I think the US is the best answer there, other than, of course, North Korea and Iran and all that stuff. Moving on, check out the World Crypto Network store at worldcryptonetwork.store. And there's a link on the website, and there's images below this video that you can click on that go right to the t-shirts, and get your own Trezors Don't Float t-shirt. I'm wearing mine today, but I have to push a lot of buttons. You've seen it. I'm wearing it. And check out the World Crypto Network audio podcast on Apple, iTunes, Spotify, and other places where audio podcasts are heard. It's almost up to date, just today's show and this show right now. Then we'll be up to date until we do another show. Moving on to issue 3. The coronavirus is back again. Yes, in other countries, they didn't reopen when the science said they shouldn't. But in the United States, they threw science out the window and they reopened anyway. They said, we don't care about the virus. We don't care about mask wearing. We're going outside. We need haircuts and shopping and big indoor parties and rallies. And they spread the virus, and now it's breaking out everywhere. Florida, Texas, and the South, all leading in new cases of coronavirus. Let's look at the big number. Yes, it just goes up. It's so bad, they're not even calling it a second wave. They're saying the first wave never ended. Wearing a mask has become a political issue, with the president and vice president refusing to wear masks no matter what. The president continuing with his political rallies, keeping large amounts of people indoors without masks. We keep learning more things about the virus, but we don't seem to be applying them to real life. This is causing the destruction of the stock market, the economy, unemployment, pretty much everything. Let's go. Well, we can't go to me first. Let's go to Christian. Are you ready? Will the coronavirus ever end? Or is this a United States only problem that doesn't look so bad from far away?
Looking at the data, it really looks bad in the US, really have to say. If you compare it with the curve you see in other countries, the curve in the US really looks bad. So at least in Germany, you can really see we got the curve really, really good down. So this was happening, but still we didn't got it to a level, I think, like New Zealand or some other countries that really could declare their country like free of corona, at least for a certain time. So even in Germany, we had all this kind of discussions like, oh, this is everything is too hard. We need to open up. So, but still, we have to say in Germany, we don't had a really hard shutdown in that kind of way. So even the lockdown, you were free every time to take a walk. The only thing we had was you were not allowed to meet in bigger groups. So you were just allowed to meet with one person from one other kind of household or something. So there was some restrictions there, like restricting the gatherings. The shops were closed that you normally could visit, but the factories were open. So there was still the kind of work, and bureaus were working most from home office, but you could have still factories, all the stuff working still, but under special conditions, of course. So I think in Germany we had this luck to get it more down. But we already see also this a little bit looks from our curve, it looks like a second wave. So this is also building up because a lot of people also here stopped kind of wearing the mask, at least putting it just somewhere. And I don't know, it's more like a silent protest, like stick to the man. Look, I don't wear my mask correct, something like that. So this is happening here too. But we can at least see there's a big majority still interested in having this at least careful with each other, social distancing kind of way. So yeah, the US, I don't know. We will have to see. I think the interesting thing is Trump was saying like, oh, it's just more testing, so this is why the graph goes up. I think I hear this argument in some places here in Europe too. I think the Swedes are saying something like this. So I think this is not completely irrelevant. But if you see also hospitalization going up, then it's not just because you do more testing, you have more cases. Maybe the cases graph is then maybe a little bit extorted, but if you also see the hospitalization going up, you have something growing in your country. So yeah, and already seeing that a lot of ICU beds are almost kind of full on capacity. That's the limit everybody try to avoid. So I don't know. I wish the best for the US that this is not getting into very bad territory here.
I've also seen a lot of that when I turn on the TV of people wearing their masks only over their mouth, not over their nose, but the virus gets in your nose as well. And they've even said, I don't know, they don't talk about it in the media, but I think it's possible it could go through your eyes as well. So goggles might be a good idea if you really want to be safe. Ben, Ark, your thoughts on the continuing coronavirus spread?
Yeah, I mean, like, humans are very good at thinking that the privileges which they've had, they are owed, and that's the way in which they should just be able to live their lives from now, forever. And I think the reality is that we've changed, society's changed for the mean term. I mean, like, the next 5 years or something. Yeah, you can open up, but you are going to end up with more infections, and then you're going to end up with overwhelmed health services and chaos. And but then similarly, if you lock down, then you stunt sort of economic stuff. So I think Biden, he put it well by saying that if you want to fix the economy first, you've got to kind of get on top of the coronavirus. And I actually think getting on top of the coronavirus, denialism is the worst sort of type of panic. Just saying there's nothing wrong and then carrying on like we were before. But trying to change the way society works, or trying to educate people to accept that this is something we're going to have to live with for years, is probably the way to go for countries. And the UK, I mean, we're I don't know if we're worse than the US, not just on by our politicians and our leaders, but by people's normal people's attitudes towards the virus. There's been heaves of people hitting the beach because we've had some nice weather. And yeah, we managed to slump. So if you look at our infection rate, it's slumped down. But that's just because we quarantined earlier in the US, and we've been in quarantine longer, and quarantine works so amazingly. So that's why we plateaued. That's why we went down. And the very fact that people are now in close proximity to one another, not wearing masks, etc., then cases are going to go up. I mean, like, look at Germany. So Germans are pretty good at like being sensible and doing things how you're supposed to do them, but they've had a spike in infections, and I know is it one town or something which has been locked down, and I look at Germany and I think, well, if they're struggling to kind of contain this thing whilst opening up at the same time, then not many other countries have got much of a chance. I think we just need to live with the fact that we're going to have to do things differently, but it could be a positive thing. I think a lot of this process is, because there's a lot of wasted energy and effort in our society, in workplaces, the way in which people work, which we can produce enough for everyone to be able to live and have a reasonable standard of living. We don't all have to work all the hours God sends, but I think being out, having to stay at home and work from home, or I mean, you kind of prioritize. You just do the important stuff. So I think eventually when we come out of this, we'll be a better and humanity will be better for it. But I feel like it's going to last years, maybe like 5 years.
Oh, 5 years, that's a long time. Let me quickly jump on this, because there's always this discussion between what's more important, like the health, protecting people, or on the other side, the economic safety, the economic side. There was one study done in Germany where kind of in economic, where two departments from health and also economic background worked together, and they came to the conclusion that an R value of 0.7 7.5 would be the best compromise for both, because you always think it's against each other, but definitely there could be a sweet spot where it's best for both. And they said it's roundabout, if you keep the R factor around about the 0.75, because then you see this in Sweden, for example. They don't have the big lockdown stuff, but the economic also tanked the same way like it tanked in Germany, for example. It's very the same thing. In the beginning, you can say, yeah, it's because of exports, but also the local economic numbers seems very, very similar to what we have in Germany. Even they don't have a kind of lockdown. So because people were doing the self-quarantine, they were seeing the virus out there, so they're not going into the businesses and all this stuff. So having this reaching for a sweet spot here, so that everybody sees, oh, this pandemic goes out the door, even helps the economic situation in your country, because then people get more and more into the consuming kind of lifestyle back. But now seeing all the swings back, yeah, we really have to see where this ends.
I do agree with Ben. I think it is a problem of education. In the United States, certainly we've cut back on science education. People don't trust experts anymore. They go on the internet and they could be informed about anything in the world. They could be educated and brought to higher levels, but instead they go to lower levels with gossip and conspiracy theories. Of course, there was that one time on Tuesday when 3 buildings fell down on one day and two airplanes actually vaporized. But put that aside, other than Tuesday, when things are normal, we also don't teach civics anymore in American schools. We don't teach how our government works, and we don't teach how people are supposed to interact with the government. So thus, we've lost generations now of potential citizens who could be interactive citizens, and they've become passive TV watching citizens. They've lost
Well, I mean,
of community.
to be fair, we don't teach any of that stuff either. You know, I mean,
it's part of like the whole American experience, is that because we're a brand new country, we're 200 years old, we have very limited history. You have to teach the people, you have to teach the citizens, and whether it's indoctrination or not, and all that, we could go down the lines, but not educating them how the government works in a democracy is pretty much like a functional issue. Like things, if you don't do that long enough, the thing won't function, because without the interactions of the people, it stops becoming a democracy and no one cares. And then someone else will come in and take it over, usually a giant corporation. I cut you off, Ben. Do you have more on that?
Yeah, no, it's just I don't want you to give the US. I mean, it's no utopia over here in Europe as well. You know, most people don't know how government works, and most people don't care enough about the democracies they're living in. And a lot of people believe a whole load of flat earth crap off the internet as well. I mean, people will learn, you know, when infection rate goes up, because they've been outside and their grands die, and they'll feel sad and they'll learn from that mistake. I think all, you know, responsible governments can do is just educate as best they can and say, look, you know, these are the realities of the situation. We're going to try and open up, but you need to, I don't know. It's very tricky. It's very, very tricky. There's no
that we've elected a reality show star with limited education and no curiosity to the highest office in the land. And everyone is agreeing with him. The emperor has no clothes, but no one seems to care. Moving on.
Then it is a testament to the US that you can have a complete lunatic like that in power. And actually, there's only so much damage they can. I know he's causing a lot of damage, but, you know, I mean, his powers are limited. You know, there is some accountability, and you are, you know, somewhat secure from the lunatic in control. So yeah,
he's not quite a king yet. He hasn't started lecturing us on his bloodlines. He's not trying to make his daughter or son king yet. But, you know, give him time. Moving on to the exit question. Will the coronavirus situation, I guess specifically in the US, be better or worse next week? Christian Rutzel.
Yeah, I think for the next week, it will look a little bit more bad than now.
Ben Ark.
Yeah, I'm gonna defer you to the UK and say, look at those pictures of those idiots all going outside and sitting on those beaches in real close proximity. You know, we could be worse than the US, and we're going to have more infections, of course, obviously, and the same with the US.
I keep thinking that people will finally get it. That maybe this one where everyone, all the scientists, me, everybody else said, hey, we're going to have a second wave. Hey, we're reopening too fast. Hey, the curve hasn't gone all the way down yet. It's just a matter of science. I'm not for or against reopening. But that didn't happen. We could all wear masks. That hasn't happened. They're trying to tighten things up here. They've just closed bars in Texas and Florida. So rather than just pausing the reopening, they're actually starting to roll it back, which is the right thing to do. But they're doing it ever so slowly. Things are going to get worse next week, and things generally have to get worse. Like Christian was saying, first you start with the testing, then you get to the hospitalization numbers, and then a couple of weeks later, then you get the deaths. So that's
what the good advice from the beginning. And I'm going to say the World Health Organization in January, they were saying testing, contact tracing, do those things: testing, contact tracing, self-isolation, and social distancing. That was February. So the good advice has always been that. But I mean, and again, in the UK, we've only just started rolling out a contact tracing app. It's not open source, awful, only runs on Android. I think doesn't work on iOS because iOS won't let it, because it's so shit. They won't let it on their app store. So we don't use any of the free and open source, because I know Christian is the contact tracing app which they have in Germany. Isn't that free and open source?
Yeah, it's this is really something interesting. Yeah, this was offered to the UK, but they kind of redeemed. And the funny thing is the software on technical level was followed a very, very decentralized way that even the CCC, the Chaos Communication Club, had nothing to bitch about, like, because they in the beginning they made a requirement list what a minimal privacy such a tracing app or should have, and everything was fulfilled, and the code is all open source. So it's all on the GitHub out there. That was there for review for people to check. There's still some stuff you can discuss about what if the government has the possibility to slip you a new kind of app under the hood, maybe at one point or something. But still, you're protected with the Google sensor stuff, because the only data it takes is the internet, and I think the camera, it asks for the camera stuff. So there's very, very, then the Bluetooth, of course, but there's very, very limited access to your rest of your phone. So it really, from a technical side, it really, really looks good, and it's open source. It's there for everybody to use. It's in, I don't know. Yeah, it's from a technical side, it's good. We have now to see if it really can deliver on what everybody wants it to do.
Yeah, but maybe they didn't use it because they wanted to spy on people, and you made it too good at not spying on people, and now they won't adopt it. So
sorry for that. So
it's too bad. It's an important function. Some governments won't leave home without it. Moving on to issue 4, PayPal, Venmo. Again, PayPal and Venmo have announced, no, they haven't announced. PayPal and Venmo, according to 3 people listed in CoinDesk, say they're going to roll out crypto buying and selling again. This keeps happening. PayPal and their 325 million users just might get access to Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. Maybe. We keep doing this. The price of Bitcoin went up 5% after PayPal announced this. We rumored that they had software years ago. There were even screenshots of the PayPal software, but that was back when Cryptsy was still a thing. So it's been a long time. Ben Ark, is PayPal finally going to accept Bitcoin? Have we reached the promised land? Is this great news for Bitcoin?
I mean, first you had DigiCash, and then that went under because Sean was just a bad business dude to spend all the money. And then you had eGold, and then the guy got arrested because it was centralized. So you could arrest somebody. It was a private business. But then you also had PayPal, which emerged, and they did want to be, something of it. They wanted to be like a digital internet currency originally for the first year. And then it realized that in order to survive, having seen what happens to DigiCash and eGold, it will just have to pivot and become a payment processor, and then do absolutely everything government asked of it. Everything. Give all your information, to the government, give them open access. And that's why they've survived, and that's why they've been there for so long. They wouldn't have touched Bitcoin years ago, but just for that reason. Their business model is to survive under the umbrella of government. But now you know, when you've got things like Square Cash and you've got all these other, you know, well-known companies which are starting to interact, and like Microsoft, for example, with their digital identity initiative, starting to interact and play with Bitcoin. You know, I could believe it. I could believe that PayPal are now like, okay, well, if all you guys are doing it, then, you know, we're not going to be the first ones and we're not going to get shut down. Then, yeah, we'll include PayPal payments with our PayPal. And I use PayPal. You know, I think I used it last week, and it's one of the most regular kind of payment methods I stumble across when I'm buying stuff off strange websites, you know, little microcontrollers or whatever. So I hope it's real news, and I hope, because it would be good news, because it's all about the impressions. You know, like the more impressions we get out there, the better. And everybody, all those people, all those normies clicking on their little PayPal link and they see that little Bitcoin logo, it just lays those seeds. What is this Bitcoin? Let me go Google it. And then they go to bitcoin.com and buy Bcash, or hopefully they stumble across an Andreas video and, you know, go the right way. But no, it's hopefully good news, and it's also a sign of the times that, you know, that we're in, that people, the society is much more open to something like Bitcoin. Hopefully, if it is real news, which I hope it is.
Well, I agree with Ben, and also I read the PayPal book, and I used to have the PayPal software on my Palm Pilot back in the day. So originally it was a really neat way to send money around the internet and to pay your friends. It was PayPal, pay your friends back for dinner with PayPal. And I used it a couple of times until the fees got too high, and then I didn't use it anymore. As Ben said, it quickly adopted into being the way to pay for things online, specifically at eBay, which again I did use, and I did use PayPal for. And it was great. It's amazing to see all that gone so far. Reading the book, I can tell you there was a ton of fraud at the time. And as you know, using PayPal, you've probably had your account frozen. It's the most popular thing with all PayPal accounts. And you might have even lost money. I know I lost $20 one time on there. And I was trying to sell Bitcoin just like they say they're going to do. So we'll see how that works out. PayPal is very unpopular. Charlie Shrem, I think on Twitter, said that PayPal drove him to Bitcoin, and it drove a lot of people to Bitcoin, having their transactions canceled. I remember my friend Jesse Powell, who became the CEO of Kraken, he used to sell digital items on the internet like a sword. And if you give someone a sword in Diablo, they have the sword. It's very hard, very easy for them to cancel the transaction and to take back that money. So it's one of the reasons that led him to Bitcoin and to his future and so forth. So I guess as a lack of a negative thing, it won't send people towards Bitcoin, but as a positive, it could turn all 325 million people onto Bitcoin. As an old Bitcoiner, I'm tired of it. I want them to just decide one way or the other. I feel like that it's Lucy with the football, and Charlie Brown just keeps coming up to kick it, and PayPal just keeps taking it away. So our 5% bump has already worn off. There's still no official announcement. We're waiting, PayPal. Where are you? Christian Rutzel, your thoughts on PayPal and Bitcoin?
Yeah, I can definitely see that it would give more exposure to Bitcoin, and I can see why people maybe are excited because of raising the market value there. But yeah, we have to see when it really will happen. But I can also see that it makes it more and more likely to happen at one point, because if other companies are making money with kind of offering Bitcoin service to their customers, this money on the table, right? And every company out there is profit driven. So, and if it's a legal game to do, like if they can get a stamp from their lawyer department on that, so it's at least an option to think about, because at one point you have to explain to your shareholders why you're not taking that money. So so I can see, at least if other companies are proving there is a market, I can see PayPal in the near future at least be interested in going in that direction. If it comes this week or next week, I don't know. So and then we have to see, like, seeing the exposure is nice. And I think everybody's Bitcoin journey started with a not complete, not a best solution kind of setup. So that's fair. And normally I think it could even be interesting if this is even an idea to sell out to people, like that, because you have a lot of private data about those accounts already. Now tie some Bitcoin to that, you control that Bitcoin. So there can even be this idea of like how you call it in Germany, Umarmung, so you try to, if you cannot beat your enemy, you try to kind of digest it. I don't know, something like that. So
Can't beat them, join them.
Yeah, can beat them, join them. Yeah, but the join still has a little bit in German. It's more like with a lot of pressure.
Okay.
So it's more like you still try to apply control there somehow. And this could be a move like that. So if this could be interesting, like collecting data on people, like a little bit like a Coinbase kind of business model somewhere, like that you can deliver background information on a good database. This is worth money, even if you can have a backdoor to sell it. So yeah, we have to see. So I hope for the education value, but hope the rest will not get that bad.
It could be for operations. You know, like the reason this PayPal always feels quite sluggish when you use it. I mean, it's gotten better now. It's because when you're using it, they have to update that database from that number going from your thing going to someone else's thing while you're connected, and that's how the transfer happens to stop the double spend problem. So if they can use like some fancy schmancy liquid token or something, or Lightning Network, or I don't know, something else, then it could be really beneficial for their operations. It could bring down their overheads. So just the technology alone, maybe.
Yeah, but I also think it reminds us that first of all, it reminds us such a custodian there makes sense for people for easy onboarding. So this is always the thing. You don't have to jump in all the way with everything. You're maybe unsecure with the technology. For onboarding, this is always great. But it reminds us maybe that we have to think about more decentralized onboarding solutions that maybe are a little bit custodial, but if it's within your local community, there's really some social trust that you have in your local community, and not the trust in some big company out there you have no control over. You never see the CEO in real, so you never have a real face to that company. So I think there could be it will maybe even speed up this idea, like building more decentralized solutions to onboard people that want it that way, because there's always this demand for that to get your toe into Bitcoin without selling out to a big company.
Well, and I think that's where we went at it the last time that we talked about it. We talked about, does Bitcoin need PayPal? And when you look at it, it's obviously another centralized institution like Coinbase that wants to attach itself to Bitcoin, maybe hold some Bitcoin, maybe not hold some Bitcoin. Say you have more than you want. All those options open up as soon as you attach one of these things to Bitcoin that isn't just using the blockchain, that we can't just verify everything. And I'm pretty sure last time we all agreed that we didn't need PayPal, but I do agree with Christian that it would be a great way for people to get some easy onboarding. If you're not comfortable with a hardware wallet or a paper wallet or a web wallet or a phone wallet or all these wallets, you could just use the PayPal wallet. And I think that a lot of people would want that. Hopefully they'd learn more later, and maybe even PayPal could have instructional videos and so forth. But just hopefully it's for Bitcoin, unlike Coinbase, that took that idea and just any scam coin that comes in the door can buy instructional videos now on Coinbase. So so much for that. They'll instruct them the different way. Ben, did you have more on PayPal?
No, not really. Just I hope it's a real story, and I hope it happens. And it may be, banking the unbanked. There's people who haven't got bank accounts and they want to pay for something on PayPal. Maybe this would be a way to do it. Maybe Square Cash and all the other apps which are incorporating Bitcoin, maybe they've led the way. Now people feel comfortable using it.
And now it's to put your money where your mouth is. Will PayPal actually accept Bitcoin before 2021? That's midnight on December 31st of 2020, the year that would never end. Let's go to Christian Rutzel. Will PayPal actually do it?
I think no, they are too slow. They will need a little bit more time. They will have to see that other people make really good numbers with it. So I don't know. So some reporting, and then maybe next year it gets realistic. But no, not this year.
Ben Ark.
Yes, it will happen. If it doesn't happen, I will eat my. No, I won't. What happened to John McAfee? Did he eat his penis? No. Is that happening this year?
He says it was always a joke. He says all the time it was serious. And even there's some other thing that he would like eat a bear or something. There's some other thing he said he would do. He's a complete, he's a press guy. Yeah. He's press. But what about PayPal? Is going to happen, Ben? Going 100%?
Yes, 100%.
So you're the one. No, I disagree. I'm with Christian. I don't think it'll happen till 2021. I think 2020 is just blown. We should just give the year up, put it back in the box, never talk about it again. Let's get to 2021 as fast as we can. Let's never, ever mention anything that happened in 2020 again. We'll just wipe it off the planet. All I did was watch repeats of Community and other TV shows. So moving on to prediction or story of the week. Ben Ark, are you ready with a prediction or a story of the week?
No, not at all. I mean, usually I shill stuff, but this week, in fact, no, story of the week is I got really excited, and hopefully Christian will talk a little bit more on this, on the IP to Tor service, which the Blitz will have. And there was some great ideas which Christian have had for like easy onboarding, and something which we kind of, this idea of cash in the bag. So you could give, I could go to my local bar and I could give them just a QR code and a little bag with like £50 in, and I'll say, look, if anyone wants to come in and they want to pay in Bitcoin, scan this QR code, take the money in Bitcoin, and then take the money from the bag, put it in your, in your till, and then put the change in the bag. So they get an instant Bitcoin to cash, and then I end up with the Bitcoin, and the little QR code is for the TPOS extension on LM bits, so it's like an instant point of sale. You can just get up on a phone or whatever else. So it's a really funky concept, and then also this idea of giving like Lightning vouchers out to communities to try and get people to just have some Bitcoin and start playing around with Bitcoin. So I've been working on LM bits, because the LN URL, the thing which you make like the faucets with, the little Lightning Network faucets, it wouldn't print out. So say if you wanted like the same QR code on all the faucets. So say if I made a faucet for like 10,000 sats, and there was like, I don't know, like a 100 sat faucets, then it would print them all out if it was the same QR code. But obviously that's not so good, because someone could reuse that QR code again and again and again. So I've been changing it this week. So now you can print out a sheet of all unique QR codes on, and I've also set it so it's like using a very standard sticker template at Christian's request. So you can put that, A4 sticker template thing, which you could just buy from wherever, put it in your printer, print out a sheet of faucets, and then just give them to people, or stick them on things. It's 100 free sats, whatever. So I've been working on that, but apart from that, really, there's not much else to report. But no, super excited about the 1.6, and then it's just some of the concepts Christian's come up with are great, really good.
All right, Christian, do you have a story of a week, a prediction, maybe a new version of Doge Rain that works with Lightning called Lightning Rain? Go ahead.
I preserve that for the future, but no, the big news is also for me, like working on the Raspberry Blitz 1.6 release that is hopefully coming out beginning of July. So we hope to get a release candidate 2 ready, so like next week. And what Ben was telling, like the big thing is there, like just having a subscription IP to Tor service, what should make it very, very easily to have your Raspberry Blitz, your little Raspberry Pi with a Bitcoin full node and a Lightning node on there, to have it there sitting there behind Tor running safely. But then you want to have your community access to it, so you have to have it publicly on the web. So this will be then the IP to Tor service, where you can rent an IP from the out there. This is the things I think we can enable a lot of stuff, like Ben were talking, like giving out vouchers, like onboarding your local store in your area, and maybe so that you don't need to trust those big companies to onboard people, so that you can do it really in a decentralized way, more in your local community, with people with faces you can maybe trust a bit more. So that's at least from the technical side, the news that I'm excited about also.
What's brilliant about it is being able to deliver your Blitz services over Tor, but then for the end user, they're just using, they could, so say if you can use something like LNURL over Tor at the moment, but it's a pain in the ass. You have to hook your Lightning wallet up to a Tor thing on your phone, and it doesn't really work, blah blah. But you could just use your normal Lightning wallets, and you don't have to enable Tor. But then once it's hit that IP to Tor service, then goes to your Tor node. So the person who's running the node, they're just nice and safe behind this Tor thing. So cool. Super excited.
Very cool. And where can people check that out?
You can find it on the Raspberry Blitz GitHub. So if you go to GitHub and type in Raspberry Blitz, you will find the GitHub, and there's like the whole tutorial is on there. How you can install, like, have your Raspberry Pi and how you can turn it into a Bitcoin full node and Lightning full node, and do all the crazy stuff on the Lightning Network, the routing, install LN bits and all those extra apps, be your own Electrum server, all those stuff. That's on the GitHub, and yeah. That's at the moment it's the 1.5.1 version, but we're working on a new release, hopefully coming out in July. Then with this IP tutorial service.
Do you make it easy to run an Electrum server?
There's ElectRS. This is the Electrum Rust servers on there that you can activate. Yes, that's I think since 1.3 it was on there.
Because I want a mainnet extension, so an on-chain extension for like for LM bits, but then I would need an Electrum server for that. So maybe I could use. Oh wow, I didn't know that. I'm an idiot.
We can talk afterwards about the
yeah.
Very cool. Excellent story of the week. And I don't really have a story of the week. We continue to do daily shows here on the World Crypto Network. We've cleaned it up. We kind of just have the Bitcoin news in the beginning. Then we do the rest of the news, which usually includes politics, coronavirus, and whatever's happening in the news that day. So we can't really control it. I want to ask everyone again to check out the World Crypto Network store at worldcryptonetwork.store or in the link on the website or one of the links down below. We've got the Trezors Don't Float t-shirt. We've got a brand new Bitcoin Not Bombs design, unique by Davi Barker for the 2020 halving. We've also got World Crypto Network, the shirt, and World Crypto Network, the mug. I got my shirt, but I haven't gotten my mugs yet. I ordered a couple of mugs, so I'm looking forward to that. And I'm even wearing this shirt, so it's pretty fun. We never had our own shirts or anything like that before. So if you want to check them out, they're like $20. $6 of that is a donation to the World Crypto Network. So thanks so much for joining us. Be sure to give us a thumbs up and a share. Thanks to Jitsi. I think it worked this time. A couple of times I saw that the connection wasn't so good. So hopefully it still works for you guys out there on YouTube. Christian was worried that the Meet server was going to crackle or something. So I don't know if we're having crackling. But I'm going to push the button and I think it's going to stop. So thanks so much for joining us. We'll be back again tomorrow with more news. The vice president had a press briefing. It was kind of a train wreck and a disaster, and he still refuses to wear a mask. But I will talk about that tomorrow. So thanks so much for joining us. Until next time, bye-bye.